How are you all? Thanks so much for having me. This is very interesting, and this is what I like to do most, which is the hotel business in the Caribbean. I'm Alex Zozaya. I'm a chairman of Apple Issue Group. Apple Issue Group is a vertically integrated company where we have distribution companies. We have 6 different brands, B2B and B2C, Apple Vacations, Travel Impressions, FunJet, Chip Caribbean, United Vacations, and Southwest Vacations. But we also have a hotel company called Lane Resorts. We have different brands: Secrets, Dreams, Sunscape, Zoetry, Breathless, etc. We have close to 80 hotels, most of them in Mexico and the Caribbean, but we also have 20 hotels in Spain, all inclusives and all on the resort side, all on the beaches. But we also have another important company, which is a big destination management company. And overall, we are the largest customer to the Caribbean and the largest customer to Mexico, sending close to 3.2 million passengers every year from the United States to these destinations. So, of course, in the middle of all this pandemic, and we know that it hit us first in tourism, and it's going to take longer for us to recuperate than to anybody else. So this is an effort that we're only going to be able to do it combined, and particularly in the Caribbean region where the local market is very small and the driving market is almost non-existent. We depend on each other. We depend on multilateral agreements, not just from the standpoint of policies in between countries, but also airlines, etc. So we depend on each other. So really hope to work together and to spread this sense of community that we are in the Caribbean. Either we all combined make it happen, or it's not going to happen. Thank you.
Alex, you guys are on the ground. You're really trying to make operational changes so people feel comfortable. And I guess the question to you, Alex, is, what's the hospitality industry doing to come back online, to make tourists feel comfortable? And just as a side note, I'm in a hotel. So I wanted to say that I'm a business traveler and I'm in a hotel and I feel great. And whatever you guys are doing, Alex, it's working. So, please share a little bit with us.
Thank you. I don't know how good is your view because the curtain is closed, but I hope we have a nice one. No, of course, there's many things that we're doing, and it is a lot of what we start to do as companies and then as islands or as destinations. But it's more important about how do we do together. And this is something that, again, particularly in the Caribbean, it's not so much because you depend so much on everything that happens outside of your island. You have to work in combination with everybody else. But of course, the biggest concern we have now is the confusion that reigns in the market. I mean, for the consumer, doesn't know what to expect when go from one country to another country. They don't even expect to go from one place to the other. The protocols are not the same. And I think we're doing a good job overall, particularly in the last 3 or 4 weeks, to try to combine or implement common protocols and speak a common language to the consumer, because that's uncertainty, the confusion in the consumer, what it's really killing us, and it's going to hurt the recovery. So we are trying to unify these protocols. In the WTC, we're trying to do it through speaking first to the G20 countries that represents about 80% of the tourism worldwide. And once those protocols are implemented, by the way, they're public and for everybody to implement now, every island should go to those protocols and should get the stamp of safe travels. So the consumer starts to understand what that means, what type of experience I should expect when I go from my city or my country to this other country, and not to think, okay, yes, this is what I should expect when I travel here, but I'm not so sure when I travel over there. One of the reasons why the recovery after 9/11 took so long is because every country and every airport had different protocols. And in some places you had to remove your shoes, or you had to take out the laptop, and then the liquids came up. In some of the countries you don't have to remove your shoes. And as long as the consumer doesn't know what to expect, that uncertainty remains, and that really going to make our life difficult to recover. But yes, of course, we as a company, we're implementing the protocols. We decided to go with the WTTC protocols. They are expensive, but those protocols are, number one, effective. That's the most important thing, because they really work and protect the health of the customers and the employees. Number two, affordable, because there's some protocols that would be so expensive that they won't be practical to implement. And number three, very important, they're not invasive, or they're at least invasive as possible. That's so important that the customer continues to have a good experience. But hopefully, those basic protocols would be the same from island to island in every different destination, so the consumer knows what to expect. Unfortunately, some companies and some countries, actually, in some destinations, are taking these protocols as a competitive advantage. They say, you know, I have these protocols in my hotel. They actually even name them with different way, like a selling catchy name to those protocols in my hotel company. So when you make a decision, you stay with me, because with me, you're going to be safe rather than staying with somebody else. And an island does the same, or a destination does the same, but staying in another destination. I think today it's not about competitive advantage. It's about reactivating the industry. We all need to speak one common language. And then once the consumer starts to travel, then we can think about market share. We can think about what is unique to our company or unique to our island or to our destination. Right now, it's not about that. It's really about, let's make sure that whatever we're saying to the consumer is consistent, that it makes the consumer feel good, and then that when they experiment the travel, it works. And very important, the experience of the guest, because some of these protocols could be so invasive, and we see some crazy measurements that some countries are taking, like the United Kingdom right now, where you have to go in quarantine for 2 weeks if you leave the United Kingdom, or if you go to the United Kingdom. That obviously is not going to work for tourism at all. But if the protocols are invasive, what is going to happen is that the consumer finally coming out of this confinement, wherever they are, most people in their homes, and they still going to spend the money. They're taking the risk, and they finally invest in us. And when they come and finally test the product, they don't have a good experience, because they have to wear a mask all the time, because the beaches are restricted, the pools are restricted, the restaurants are closed, the bars are closed, etc. If they don't have a good experience, we're not going to have good ambassadors coming back to the country, speaking to the friends and families and saying, I had a wonderful experience, but also I felt safe. So I think that's very important. We should all be determining, particularly in the Caribbean, we can start by doing this as a region, which are the protocols and how we're going to communicate those protocols and make sure they're consistent. And then we need to develop this strategic alliance with the most important markets, whether they're bilateral or trilateral, multilateral agreements, so we can create these bridges of traveling from one place to the other, because the world is going to be reopening. It's already reopening in different phases. And of course, the Caribbean depends in very specific markets. And I think those are the markets where we should be concentrating all our efforts to open up. So that's what we're doing, and it's going to take some time. I mean, I agree with Nick. This is not a short-term thing. It's going to change the new projects, the pacing of the new projects. I see very little new things coming up, but there's a lot of things under construction that are going to be finished. So there's going to be more supply and an environment where the universe of customers worldwide, if we're lucky, in 1 year from now, is going to be 50% of the size that it was a few months ago. So it's going to be very, very competitive and very, very difficult on the new environment. But of course, the recovery is going to come. It's just going to take time. It really is going to vary. I mean, it's going to vary from country to country. I don't see by no means any type of recovery before the summer of 2021. And when I'm talking in terms of recovery, we tend to think, when are we going back to profitability? When are we going back to see things the way they were before? I think that's going to take a lot longer. I think that if everything goes fine and there's not a new outbreak, and there's no vaccine, because that's very important what's going to happen in the future. But let's say there's no vaccine yet. I think that Q1 of 2021 is still going to be very shy. Actually, the whole the whole trimester is going to be worse in 21, significantly worse in 21 than it was in 2020. Q2, it should be better. But I think overall the year, if we're lucky, we'll reach probably 50% that it was in 2019, and then eventually it's going to be recuperating. But it really depends, because some of the islands, for example, are very highly dependent on certain markets. So those who are dependent in the short term from the UK, for example, they're going to struggle based on the policies that the UK is taking. Those that are more dependable on the USA, and we're in the USA, obviously, despite that they depend heavily on the connectivity, but it's going to have a different recovery time because long haul, some of the islands depend greatly on European markets, and the long haul is going to take longer than the short haul. People are going to start traveling regional before they start traveling long haul. People are going to try to avoid being for more hours within the plane, and it's obviously going to be more expensive. So Europeans are going to travel more within Europe before they start coming back to the Caribbean. So it really depends which island, depends to which market, and in also on what's the capacity for that island to manage an outbreak. If it comes again, do you have enough hospitals? What's your tracking record of handling the pandemic during the time? So that perception is going to be a lot. And also very important is marketing, where the promotion is going to be. I'm not suggesting that we should come up with a campaign for the whole Caribbean. I think that has pros and cons, but I do believe that marketing, how we're going to position ourselves to put ourselves on the map before our competitors do, once the whole industry is reactivated and ready to travel, I think it's really very, very important. Everybody's going to be cutting costs, and cutting costs in marketing and promotion during this time, I think it could be detriment to the recovery.
I mean, do you guys see development, completely being put on hold, or are there going to be some niche developments coming on in the near future?
In my case, my experience, I see a lot of the new projects coming for start being delayed, or at least postponed for the moment. And I think our investors are more focused on, okay, what opportunities are there? Let's consolidate what we have. We're putting more money in existing hotels as well, by the way, because we're taking this time to remodel, refurbish, and come up with a better product, which is also important, but also see what opportunities are going to come out there on the market after this crisis.